Back to another of our top stories. DA Gauteng leader John Moodey announcing his resignation from the organisation today, citing tensions related to race as well as internal challenges. Even though he felt pained resigning, Moodey says he no longer feels at home in the Democratic Alliance. Let's get your reaction from the party and bring in national spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance, Refilwe Nsege, who's joining us by Skype this afternoon. Refilwe, afternoon to you. So another leader who's leaving you, citing an unfairness, at least where dealing with issues of race in the leadership and in the broader context is concerned. Why?
Good afternoon, Tembekile. Let me greet the ENCA viewers as well. Tembekile, it is most unfortunate and sad that Mr. Moodey has left, especially when we know that we are on our way to unseating the ANC in the elections next year. However, let us go into the crux of some of the reasons why Mr. Moodey is leaving. Mr. Moodey was facing FLC disciplinary hearing where there are allegations of him having used homophobic means to actually bribe councillors to fictitiously come up with allegations against a DA MP as a sex for jobs scandal within the organization. And this case is now at the FLC. He was meant to be going through the process to find out whether he's guilty or not, and he has left before going through this process. So these are some of the challenges in terms of why Mr. Moodey is leaving.
I want to come in there, Refilwe, because the initial reasons, as I understand it, John Moodey, first of all, today said that he had only been given a date to appear. He hadn't been told what charges were being brought against him. The understanding was that an initial investigation by the party had to do with his support for the now former leader of the party, Musi Maimane, right? That's what he believes is...
Mr. Moodey has never been charged with support for the former leader.
Refilwe, so that's what was the initial understanding, right? So second then, according to his presentation today, would then be what is related to what you're talking about, where he's said to have been plotting to frame a member of the DA in a sex for jobs scandal. As we sit here today, which is it?
Okay. To make it, the reality is, if you are saying that there are allegations of you being people plotting against you, should you not go through an FLC process where you can produce your own evidence, prove that you're innocent, and then continue to lead in an organization, especially when you are standing for the federal leadership position in the organization?
When did the investigation into that begin?
I beg your pardon, Tembekile?
I think there's a slight delay on our Skype line. I wanted to understand when the investigation then into what you're speaking about began.
Sometime this year. I don't have an exact date for you, but I'm happy to come back to you on that date, because the case came through where he was given the full charge sheet. It was never lied to him about the charges that were brought to him, because you can't charge somebody without giving them a charge sheet. And he had an opportunity to then note that the case is referred to the FLC, which is our Federal Legal Commission, which deals with all our disciplinary hearings. And from there on, he would go through the normal process of having to defend himself and state his own case with his own evidence, whether the charges are falsified or not. So, and then from there, a verdict would have been made.
So to be clear then, by your account, John Moodey is lying that he was never told of his charges.
John Moodey was told that he's been charged. He was given everything he needed in terms of a charge sheet around the allegations, and he needed to go through the FLC process to make a determination of whether he's guilty or not. But as a law-abiding party, we start on the basis of innocent until proven guilty. For now, for me, John is still innocent until he had gone through the FLC process.
So here's the problem, Refilwe. You're sitting with a former provincial leader, right, who, by your account, lied about not having been furnished with a full charge sheet and the details of what he was being investigated for, right? You're sitting with a leader who you're contradicting again on a number of other things publicly here today on this platform. Yet in your statement, you say his resignation was unfortunate and unnecessary. Is that really the caliber of person you'd want in your party if he's done all of this stuff that you're contradicting here today?
I'm not contradicting, Tembekile. Let me clarify. When you say it's unfortunate and unnecessary, here's the case. and give me a chance to state my case. It is unfortunate because I'm saying to you, John is innocent until proven guilty. He was still a sitting provincial leader of the party and still had an opportunity to prove his innocence at the FLC procedure. I don't see how those two things are contradictory.
Well, first of all, he says you didn't furnish him with the full details of the investigation and the charge sheet and all of that. At the briefing, he says all he had was a date, right? So if you're saying you did, that means he lied.
I think it's semantics, Tembekile, because I'm saying to you, he was given a charge sheet. He cannot be told to appear before an FLC without having a charge sheet.
But if he says all he had was a date, then that suggests that he lied, because he said he wasn't aware of the charges.
If you want to use the word lied, then we can use that word.
So do you believe that, Refilo, that prominent black leaders dumping the DA for somewhat similar reasons is honestly not going to do the DA any damage, especially because just at the beginning of our conversation, you were saying you are on your way to unseating the ANC next year, but to get that, you would also have to win over black voters who will be very worried when the DA is being accused of chasing out, if you will, black leaders who speak out too much.
I think you can go into the history of the DA and tell me which black leaders were chased out of the DA. Then we can have that conversation. I'm still here, and I've been here for many, many years.
Some could argue that
I'm happy for
John
you to
Moodey
give
was
me
there.
Examples, so we can actually because each case has to be taken by its own merit. You can't just lump people together and say black people are leaving.
Again, I apologize. I'm not interrupting you. We just have an issue with the delay on the line. You say you're still in the DA. Some can argue that John Moodey could have argued the same when Musi Maimane left. Apart from black leaders being hounded out of the party, the allegation against the DA is that from a policy perspective, you are to a degree anti-black. That came across with Herman Mashaba, for example, when he left the organization. And you wonder again how you're going to achieve the objective of winning over the majority of the vote in a majority black country when all of this is seemingly working against you.
I don't think this is working against us. I think let's look at the facts on the table. If the DA wants to bring the ANC to under 50% and has always believed that we will be part of a coalition government, there's nothing unrealistic about that. And the DA has always said the policies that we put forward are to make sure that the economy is growing to create jobs in this country. And you can see with the COVID lockdown, the DA has done stunning work to make sure that people realize we are a party of government. If then you talk about black people living in the DA, we can take individuals and say, why did this particular person leave? Let's take Mr. Maimane because he's the senior most of all the people that you have mentioned. When Mr. Maimane saw the election outcomes last year, he elected a panelist, a set of panelists from Mr. Tony Leon to the previous CEO of the Democratic Alliance, and they were briefed to look at why the DA performed the way it did. When they gave their report back, Mr. Maimane then chose that he wanted to leave the Democratic Alliance. How can that then be turned around and say that the DA has chased him out when he made a decision that he wanted to leave based on the review panel's findings?
Okay, Refilo Nsekhe, spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance. We could continue, but we're sadly out of time. Thank you so much for speaking to us today on the resignation of John Moodey.